A Star's Fall, Young Thug's Legal Troubles. Grammy-winning rapper Young Thug, whose real name is Jeffrey Williams, found himself at the center of a high-profile legal battle in 2022. This case not only captivated the public but also raised significant questions about the intersection of art and law. He, along with 27 others, was swept up in a sweeping indictment in Fulton County, Georgia. The sheer number of defendants highlighted the extensive nature of the investigation. The charges? Violations of the state's Racketeer-Influenced and Corrupt Organizations, or RICO, Act. This law, originally designed to combat organized crime, was now being used against a prominent figure in the music industry. This case sent shockwaves through the music industry and put a spotlight on the controversial use of lyrics as evidence in criminal trials. Many artists and fans were left wondering if their creative expressions could be used against them in a court of law. Williams, known for his eccentric style and unique vocal delivery, had risen from Atlanta's vibrant hip-hop scene to become a global icon. His influence extended far beyond music, impacting fashion and culture as well. His arrest marked a stunning fall from grace. Fans and fellow artists were left in shock, grappling with the reality of the situation. The prosecution painted a picture of Williams as a mastermind behind Young Slime Life, or YSL, which they alleged was not just a record label, but a dangerous criminal street gang. This narrative was central to their case. The indictment alleged that YSL was responsible for a string of violent crimes in the Atlanta area, including murder, armed robbery, and drug trafficking. These serious accusations added to the gravity of the trial. Prosecutors pointed to Williams' lyrics, music videos, and social media posts as evidence of his involvement in gang activity. They argued that his art was a reflection of his real-life actions. This tactic, however, drew criticism from free speech advocates who argued that it unfairly criminalized artistic expression. They contended that lyrics and performances should not be taken literally or used as direct evidence of criminal behavior. The case dragged on for over a year, with Williams spending much of that time behind bars. His prolonged incarceration added to the drama and tension surrounding the trial. The trial was plagued by delays, legal wrangling, and intense media scrutiny. Each postponement and legal maneuver was closely followed by the public and the press. It became a spectacle, with every twist and turn dissected by legal analysts and hip-hop fans alike. The trial not only tested the legal system but also the patience and loyalty of Young Thug's supporters. The plea deal. A closer look at the charges. In December 2023, after numerous delays and a highly publicized trial, Young Thug accepted a plea deal. This decision brought an end to his legal battle, but not without significant consequences. The plea deal saw Williams pleading guilty to one count of racketeering conspiracy and agreeing to a 15-year sentence, with 10 years commuted to time served and the remaining 5 years to be served on probation. This plea deal was a complex legal maneuver with several stipulations. As part of the agreement, Williams also pleaded guilty to additional charges, including gang activity, drug possession, and possession of a firearm during the commission of a felony. The prosecution, in turn, dropped several other charges, including murder and armed robbery, which had carried the potential for a much longer sentence. The plea deal was a calculated risk for both sides. For the prosecution, it secured a conviction against a high-profile figure and sent a message about their commitment to cracking down on gang violence. For Williams, it offered a way to avoid the uncertainty of a jury trial and the possibility of a life sentence. The terms of his probation were strict, including a curfew, mandatory community service, and a ban on associating with known gang members. Any violation of these terms could land him back behind bars for the remainder of his sentence. Inside the courtroom, witness testimonies and legal battles. The trial of Young Thug was a whirlwind of dramatic moments, legal maneuvering, and emotional testimonies. The prosecution presented a case built on a mountain of evidence, including phone records, social media posts, and eyewitness accounts. They argued that Williams was a driving force behind YSL, using his fame and influence to direct criminal activity. One of the most compelling pieces of evidence was a series of jailhouse phone calls between Williams and his associates. In these calls, which were played for the jury, Williams could be heard discussing drug deals, gun purchases, and even potential acts of violence. The prosecution argued that these calls provided a chilling glimpse into the inner workings of YSL. The defense, however, mounted a vigorous challenge to the prosecution's case. They argued that Williams was being unfairly targeted because of his music and that the prosecution was misinterpreting his lyrics and exaggerating his involvement in any criminal activity. They presented witnesses who testified to Williams's character, describing him as a generous and kind-hearted individual who was deeply involved in his community. The defense also challenged the credibility of some of the prosecution's witnesses, many of whom were former associates of Williams who had cut deals with the government in exchange for their testimony. They argued that these witnesses were motivated by self-preservation and could not be trusted to tell the truth. Section 4. A ripple effect. Co-defendants choose their paths. The case against Young Thug and YSL wasn't just about one man. It ensnared a web of individuals connected to the rapper and his label. This complex web of relationships and alleged criminal activities brought many into the legal spotlight. As the trial unfolded, several of Williams's co-defendants faced their own legal battles and made critical decisions that shaped the course of the case. Each decision had a ripple effect, influencing not only their own futures but also the overall dynamics of the trial. Some remained loyal, steadfast in their support of Williams, while others chose to cooperate with the prosecution in hopes of leniency. These choices created a tense atmosphere in the courtroom, with alliances and loyalties constantly being tested. One of the most notable co-defendants was rapper Gunna, a close friend and frequent collaborator of Williams. His involvement in the case drew significant media attention and public scrutiny. Gunna, whose real name is Sergio Kitchens, was initially charged with racketeering conspiracy alongside Williams. The charges against him were serious, carrying the potential for a lengthy prison sentence. However, in December 2022, Gunna entered an offered plea to a single count of racketeering conspiracy. This decision was a pivotal moment in the case, marking a significant shift in the legal strategy. An offered plea is a unique legal maneuver where a defendant maintains their innocence while acknowledging that the prosecution has enough evidence to potentially secure a conviction. It is a complex and often controversial legal strategy. As part of the plea deal, Gunna was sentenced to 5 years in prison, with credit for time served, and the remaining sentence commuted to probation. This outcome allowed him to avoid a lengthy incarceration, but it came with its own set of challenges and public perceptions. This plea deal sparked controversy and divided public opinion. Some saw it as a strategic move that allowed Gunna to avoid a lengthy prison sentence and continue his career. Others viewed it as a betrayal of Williams, who remained adamant about his innocence. The decision created a rift among supporters and raised questions about loyalty and justice. Gunna, for his part, maintained that he had done nothing wrong and that his plea deal was a way to protect himself and his family. He emphasized that his decision was made in the best interest of his loved ones. Despite the controversy, Gunna's plea deal highlighted the difficult choices faced by co-defendants in high-profile cases. It underscored the complexities of the legal system and the personal stakes involved for those entangled in it. Section 5. Silence of the Star. Young Thug's limited public statements. Throughout the roller coaster of legal proceedings, Young Thug remained relatively silent, his public statements carefully measured. Despite the intense media scrutiny and public interest, he chose to keep his thoughts and feelings largely private. While his legal team vehemently defended his innocence, Williams himself largely avoided making direct comments about the case. His lawyers took center stage, presenting arguments and evidence to support his claims of innocence. This silence, however, didn't stop the rumor mill or the endless speculation surrounding the charges and his potential fate. The public and media were left to piece together information from court documents and second-hand reports. One of the few times Williams broke his silence was during a court appearance in June 2023. This moment was highly anticipated and closely watched by both supporters and critics. In an emotional address to the judge, he proclaimed his innocence, stating, "I'm not asking for no sympathy, but I do want you to know I ain't no criminal." His words were a rare glimpse into his personal perspective on the case. He went on to express concern for his co-defendants and the impact the case was having on their lives. This showed a side of Williams that was deeply empathetic and aware of the broader implications of the legal battle. Beyond this brief statement, Williams remained largely tight-lipped, letting his lawyers do the talking in the courtroom. His legal team continued to navigate the complex legal landscape on his behalf. His social media accounts, once vibrant platforms for his music and personal life, went dormant. Fans noticed the sudden silence, which contrasted sharply with his previously active online presence. The only glimpses into his thoughts and feelings came through occasional letters to fans and supporters, shared by his loved ones. These letters were cherished by his followers, offering a rare connection to the artist during his time of turmoil. This silence, whether strategic or out of necessity, only added to the intrigue surrounding the case. It created an air of mystery that kept the public and media guessing. It left fans and critics alike to decipher the truth from the rumors and speculate about Williams' side of the story. The lack of direct communication from Young Thug himself fueled endless debates and discussions. The lack of direct statements from the rapper himself created a void quickly filled by media narratives and public opinion. This vacuum of information allowed for a multitude of interpretations and assumptions to take root, shaping the public's perception of the case. Section 6. Career in Limbo. The impact on Young Thug's music. The legal troubles cast a long shadow over Young Thug's once bright career. With his freedom restricted and the weight of the charges hanging over him, his musical output slowed to a trickle. Projects were put on hold, collaborations were left unfinished, and the momentum he had built as one of hip-hop's most innovative voices was abruptly halted. Prior to his arrest, Williams was at the peak of his creative powers. He had released a string of critically acclaimed albums and mixtapes, collaborated with some of the biggest names in music, and earned a Grammy Award for his songwriting contributions. His influence on the sound and style of contemporary hip-hop was undeniable. The indictment and subsequent trial brought all of that to a standstill. His record label, YSL, once a buzzing hub for emerging talent, became entangled in the legal battle, its future uncertain. The release of his highly anticipated album, Punk, was delayed indefinitely, leaving fans to wonder what might have been. The case also raised questions about the intersection of art and criminal justice. Prosecutors' use of Williams' lyrics as evidence sparked a debate about artistic freedom and the limits of free speech. While some argued that his lyrics provided a window into his criminal intent, others saw it as a dangerous precedent that could stifle creative expression and unfairly target artists from marginalized communities.